Funding for this program is made possible in part by UNC-TV members.
On the western horizon of our state are ancient sentinels. They're not only the oldest mountains on the North American continent, but among the oldest mountains in the world. Fiery cauldrons that once rivaled the Swiss Alps, our North Carolina mountains are now gentle giants. Worn by time, wind, and water, they appear as soft as watercolor brushstrokes. Life is abundant in these mountains. More varieties of trees, plants, and flowers can be found here than in all of Europe. Under the hardwoods and hemlocks of these forests, wildlife is plentiful. Nurturing yet awe-inspiring, these mountains are wellsprings of beauty and recreation. Their cool mountain forests and trails beckon the visitor. So come join us as we explore North Carolina and its many mountain treasures.
Hi, I'm David Holt, and welcome to our beautiful North Carolina mountains. You know, I moved to western North Carolina about 35 years ago. I came here to find old songs and stories, and I found lots of them. I've been collecting and performing those old songs and stories ever since. I also found some wonderful people and some of the most scenic countryside anywhere in the whole world. So come with me as I take you on a journey and show you some of North Carolina's mountain treasures.
Until recently, these mountains were able to keep the world out, and western North Carolina was a remote, unknown region. As if the walls of granite and rock and the so-called Laurel Hills weren't daunting enough, there were Cherokee and other Indian tribes that discouraged many from venturing into this unknown beauty. Today, these mountains are as inviting as ever, and tourism is a major industry. Visitors flock to this region of North Carolina in record numbers to personally discover its rich history and awe-inspiring beauty for themselves. Many of them come via the first scenic motor route, the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Construction of the Blue Ridge Parkway started right here at Cumberland Knob along the North Carolina-Virginia border. It was started by President Roosevelt during the Great Depression, and he had the Civilian Conservation Corps build it as a link between the Shenandoah National Park and the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Today, more than half of the 469 miles of the parkway winds through western North Carolina.
More than 2 million visitors travel the parkway every year, making it the most visited national park in the country. With views like this, it's easy to see why they come here. The North Carolina section of the parkway boasts 25 tunnels and takes you to elevations of over 6,000 feet. Started in 1935, the parkway took 52 years to complete. One of the visionaries who made the Blue Ridge Parkway a reality was Robert L. Doughton, a North Carolina native and a congressman. The parkway's largest park was named in his honor. With 6,000 acres of untouched beauty, Doughton Park is a great place to spend a few hours or a few days. There are over 30 miles of hiking trails for you to explore. After spending a day in the park, you can bunk down at Bluffs Lodge or pitch a tent and sleep out in the cool mountain air in one of the campgrounds. Years ago, the early settlers didn't have campgrounds or the Blue Ridge Parkway to make travel in these mountains as easy as it is today. They had to build their own wagon roads and trails through the thick forest, one step at a time. The first white people to settle in the Blue Ridge were the Scotch-Irish. Hard-scrabble pioneers, these settlers fled their native shores because of economic hardship, but mostly they came for the same reason the Pilgrims did, to worship their God as they saw fit.
Another group of deeply religious settlers came to this region in the late 1800s. They were the Episcopal missionaries. Now they built St. Mary's Episcopal in West Jefferson and this beautiful church, the Holy Trinity Episcopal, right here in Glendale Springs. Now both of these churches have the distinction of having full wall frescoes created by internationally known North Carolina artist Ben Long. Railroads played a major part in developing western North Carolina. In 1915, the Virginia and Carolina Railroad built a line along the South Fork of the New River from West Jefferson, which ended right here in Todd. The Todd General Store was built in anticipation of the railroad. In business since 1914, it operated on the barter system and was the only store in the region to survive the downturn of the Great Depression.
The famous railroad line known today as the Virginia Creeper made its last run into Todd in 1933 at the end of the logging boom in this region. You can no longer buy a train ticket here, but you can buy a ticket to fun and adventure. The old depot is now an outdoor sports shop. Many visitors rent bikes to pedal along the old track bed right along the river. Others prefer to travel down the river in a kayak or canoe, or even on top of an inner tube with man's best friend.
The New River was established as an American Heritage River in 1988. Now, since the colonial times, when Thomas Jefferson's father led an expedition here, it's been the lifeblood of the region. You can camp, fish, hike, or just jump in a canoe to explore the beauty of the area.
Early explorers on this river had to buy supplies, of course, and the place to go was Mass General Store, established in the little town of Valley Cruces back in 1882. Today, the store is just as busy as it was 100 years ago. The local residents still get their supplies here along with their mail. The original post office still operates out of the store.
Mass General Store was known for selling everything from cradles to caskets. In fact, there's an old saying that if you can't buy it here, you don't need it. You could even trade a chicken for a sack of flour. Now, today, old-timers still gather by the old pot-bellied stove to tell stories and play a friendly game of bottle-cap checkers. Is it my move?
Your move.
Okay.
Oh, David.
Ah, oh no, you're hurting me. It's friendly, but they're good. Be careful. You just took all my men.
You're buying one.
Okay.
One more time.
If checkers are not your game, you can step out on the back porch, sit back in a rocking chair, and enjoy some old-time country music.
Going down to the station, gonna take my old rocking chair.
There's no musician that's done more to bring the sounds of Appalachia to the world stage than North Carolina native Doc Watson. Blind since childhood, Doc has been bringing North Carolina music to life for over half a century. Now in his 80s, he still gives performances throughout the state and the country. A beloved man of the mountains and a personal friend of mine, playing with Doc is a career highlight for me.
The chimney's fallen down and the roof is tumbled in, letting in the sunshine and the rain. And the only friend I've got
Overtime is starting.
I wouldn't be planning on going back anytime soon. There's a lot of people saying this struggle's going to take a long time. Well, it's getting late.
One of America's most famous frontiersmen was Daniel Boone. He became so well known that the largest town in the northwest part of our state is named after him.
The town of Boone was originally named Council Store. You see, hunters would stop in here to stock up on supplies before they headed deep into the wilderness. Now, one of the hunters who stopped at Council Store was a legendary Daniel Boone, who had several cabins right here in this area. In the 1800s, the town changed its name just to honor him.
If you want to see what life was like for Daniel Boone back in the late 1700s, be sure to see Horn in the West. Set in 1771, the drama depicts the early settlers' struggle for independence from the British and the beginning of their expansion west. Started in 1952, the play is the nation's longest-running outdoor drama.
Over the years, over 4,000 cast members have been part of this dramatic production. Some of them now familiar to us, like Barry Corbin and Stan Kirsch of the once popular television show Northern Exposure. Let's take a look and see what makes this show so entertaining.
Just outside Boone, we find North Carolina's oldest scenic attraction, the Blowing Rock. Legend goes that a Chickasaw Indian maiden fell in love with a Cherokee brave. One day, the sky reddened, warning the brave to return to his tribe. Torn between duty and love, he jumped from here to the valley floor. The maiden prayed for his return, and a gust of wind blew her lover back onto the rock.
Of course, the legend may just be a tall tale, but there's no doubt about it. Mysterious winds can really blow things around up here. Ripley's Believe It or Not, once touted Blowing Rock, is the only place in the world where snow actually falls upside down.
The Blowing Rock is only one of the many adventures you'll find in this part of the state. Our next stop not only features Indians, it also has cowboys and steam engines as well.
Long before there was even the conception of Carowinds or Six Flags, there was Tweetsie Railroad. In 1957, Tweetsie Railroad became North Carolina's first family theme park. Let's climb on board and see for ourselves what makes this place such a big hit with everybody who comes here.
We're on board Old Number 12, a narrow-gauge, coal-fired steam locomotive that used to carry passengers between Johnson City and Boone. Most of these old locomotives are in museums, so getting to ride Number 12 is a real treat. In addition to riding North Carolina's most famous steam engine, Tweetsie, the park offers all kinds of family fun. One of the favorite attractions is its comical shootouts with the cowboys and Indians. You can also climb on board one of its many amusement rides. Head up Deer Park and feed the animals. Take a crack at panning for gold. Or get your picture taken on one of the horses in town.
Travel has always been a challenge in these mountains. Tweetsie Railroad brought the world to an isolated community. But long before there were steam engines, horses were the main source of transportation, and they're still a great way to experience the mountains.
For horseback riding, there's no better spot than Moses Cone Memorial Park in Blowing Rock. There are over 27 miles of trails to venture out on here. But that's not the only draw for the thousands that come here every year.
Flat Top Manor, a 20-room mansion, is the centerpiece of the park's 3,516 acres. It was the former home of textile mogul Moses Cone. The manor is now a visitor center and houses craft shops that showcase the work of the Southern Highland Handicraft Guild.
Once you've finished at the manor, take advantage of the park's many hiking trails. One of the favorites is the Flat Top Mountain Trail. It leads to the park's observatory, where you can climb up and get breathtaking views of this area. No matter where you are in the North Carolina mountains, they never fail to inspire. In the late 1800s, a wealthy man named Hugh McCrae came to the area from Wilmington. It was love at first sight. McCrae was so overcome by the beauty of this area that he convinced his family to purchase over 16,000 acres of pristine forest land just outside the town of Linville. But the real treasure of what they purchased has become one of the state's most beloved icons, Grandfather Mountain. In 1744, a French botanist named André Michaud climbed Grandfather Mountain. He recorded in his diary, "Reached the summit of the highest mountain in North America." Of course, today we know that Mount McKinley is the highest mountain in the country, and Mount Mitchell, the highest peak in the eastern United States.
So Michaud may have missed the mark on finding the highest peak, but what he did find was a greater variety of plant life than in all of Europe, from the Arctic capes of Scandinavia to the shores of southern Greece. There are plants and roots here that can only be found in the southern Appalachians.
Today, Grandfather Mountain is the only privately owned biosphere reserve out of 324 reserves that have been designated by the UN internationally. Among the specially preserved species are 7 animal habitats for the public to enjoy, including mountain lions, eagles, otters, and the park's mascot, the black bear. Grandfather Mountain's many attractions also include 12 miles of trails and the mile-high swinging bridge. The bridge is a mile above sea level, but actually hangs only about 80 feet off the ground. Our mountain's Scotch-Irish heritage is celebrated on this mountain every year with the Highland Games. Held in McCrae Meadows the second weekend of July, the event has been going strong for more than 40 years. The Games bring together more than 120 Scottish clans and societies who celebrate their roots with traditional games, dancing, music, and athletic feats. Another natural beauty of these mountains comes in liquid form. The state boasts over 500 waterfalls. One of the most visited is Linville Falls, located in the Linville Gorge, an area so scenic that it's been called the Grand Canyon of North Carolina. Here, water is nature's chisel. A chisel that's been working underground as well. The best place to see this kind of underground beauty is at Linville Caverns.
The caverns were discovered in 1822 when 2 men noticed fish swimming out of the mountain. They decided to follow the stream underground. Inside they found rooms that, in their words, looked like the arch of some grand old cathedral. The jutting stalagmites and dripping stalactites found here are rock formations almost as old as the earth itself.
These formations may be old, but they're still forming as mineral-rich deposits of water continue to carve the limestone into lace-like pillars. The caverns are also home to many species of fascinating animals, like the rarely seen brown bat and the eastern pipistrelle bat. They rest here during the day after a night of chasing down insects outside the caverns. You'll also see hundreds of oversized granddaddy longleg spiders hibernating here. They're drawn in by the cool, moist air. They're not the only spider you may see. The orb weaver calls these caverns home as well. Just up the road from Linville Caverns is a rock formation of another sort. It's called Famous Louise's Rock House Restaurant, and it's the only restaurant in the state that sits in 3 counties.
Now, this is a mouthful, so pay attention. The food is cooked in Avery County. It's picked up by the waitresses in Burke County and delivered to Avery or McDowell County, depending on where you sit. Now, you pay for your food in Avery County, go to your car in McDowell or Burke County, depending on where you parked. Now, you may wonder, where do they pay the taxes? Well, that's McDowell County, no matter where you sit. So while I sit here and enjoy this good home-cooked mountain food, let's get a taste of what's coming up in our next segment.
We're going to continue our journey south, where we'll visit the world's largest privately owned residence, George Vanderbilt's Biltmore Estate, and jump into the world-renowned spas at the Grove Park Inn. Venture with us as we climb on top of the highest mountain east of the Rockies, Mount Mitchell, and hike to Klingman's Dome, the highest peak on the Appalachian Trail. And we'll see what makes rocks glow in the dark and why so many are still panning for them today. Climb on board with us as we take a trip through the Nantahala Gorge on the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad and see whitewater sportsmen hone their skills. Step back in time in the Econo-Lefty Indian Village in Cherokee and see how Native Americans lived off the land. All next, when we continue to uncover some of North Carolina's mountain treasures.
Welcome back to North Carolina Mountain Treasures. I'm your host, David Holt. We're about to continue our journey deep into the southern reaches of these gorgeous mountains. I'm here atop Mount Mitchell. At 6,684 feet, Mount Mitchell is not just the state's highest peak, it's the highest peak east of the Mississippi River.
Mount Mitchell is the loftiest point in the eastern United States. In fact, on a clear day, you can see for 85 miles in any direction. 18 of the peaks in this region are higher than 6,300 feet. The climate here at Mount Mitchell is characteristic of New England and Canada. Frozen precipitation has been recorded in all 12 months of the year. During the winter months, that precipitation comes to North Carolina's mountains in the form of snow, or at least that's what area skiers are on the lookout for.
The North Carolina mountains on average attract over 500,000 people every year to come ski down their slopes. And with 7 ski resorts to choose from, there's plenty of room for everybody. With great skiing conditions like this and beautiful views wherever you turn, you can see why so many North Carolinians visit here every winter.
And skiing is just one of the winter sports to enjoy in the mountains. Ice skating, snowboarding, and snow tubing are also big hits in the mountain's winter resorts. Each season brings its own special beauty to these mountains. Winter's blanket of snow gives way to spring's budding glory. Summer carpets the landscape in every shade of green. And autumn splashes the hillsides in a brilliant blaze of color. Dark coniferous forests once dominated these ridges, making the mountains appear almost black in contrast to the slopes of the Blue Ridge below. The ridges became known as the Black Mountains, and down below, there's even a town named for them.
Known as the front porch of western North Carolina, Black Mountain has greeted many a visitor since it was founded in 1893. Today, this charming mountain town continues to attract tourists who come to learn a little about the arts and crafts of this area, look at the art galleries, or just relax in a place where life is unhurried and perhaps a little simpler than in the cities.
The railroad first reached Black Mountain in 1879, and the old depot still stands today as a craft shop. But before trains came to the area, the local natives lived here. The Cherokee called this area Gray Eagle, after a rock formation above the town. Just south of here is another area named after a rock. Like Black Mountain, Chimney Rock has a distinctive rock formation that lends the attraction its name. Chimney Rock is an ecological reserve that's been privately owned by the Morse family since 1902. From the top of the chimney, you can sit down and enjoy breathtaking views of this area. Or on the way down, hike by Hickory Nut Falls, which at 404 feet is one of North Carolina's tallest cascades. Like many of North Carolina's treasures, the park has a little movie history attached to it. The Last of the Mohicans was filmed here, and you can hike along the same trails that were used in the movie. This is also a popular place to bring your favorite four-legged friend.
Chimney Rock Park has many hiking trails for you to explore. One of my favorites is this one, Skyline Cliff Trail. From here you get a picturesque view of Hickory Nut Gorge and shimmering Lake Lure.
In the early part of the 20th century, the Morse family created Lake Lure as the centerpiece of an upscale resort community that included the 1,000 acres they owned at Chimney Rock. The Depression limited the scope of that plan, but in some ways preserved the small-town feel of Lake Lure.
National Geographic's touted Lake Lure as one of the most spectacular man-made lakes in the world. And the best way to explore it all is by boat.
One of the many popular outings on the lake is the covered boat tour that takes you by the site where the popular movie Dirty Dancing was filmed. On most trips, you'll see the rare blue heron flying around looking for a meal. And if you get hungry on your trip, don't worry. The lake offers a sunset cruise that takes you to one of the many restaurants on the water. They say that Asheville is the place where altitude affects attitude. One magazine named Asheville the happiest city in the United States with its vibrant downtown scene and an active arts and crafts community that keeps the mountain heritage alive. One of the biggest is the Mountain Dance and Folk Festival.
The Mountain Dance and Folk Festival is the oldest continuously running folk festival in the United States. It was started in 1928 by Bascom Lamar Lunsford, and it's become the backbone of traditional music in this region. Now, I first performed here in 1969. I just fell in love with the music and the people. It was because of this festival that I moved to Western North Carolina.
Music was essential to the distinct regional culture of the Appalachian Mountains. Traditional Appalachian music is based on Anglo-Celtic folk ballads and dance tunes brought over by settlers from the British Isles. Played mostly on fiddle, banjo, dulcimer, and later guitar, mountain music has been passed down from generation to generation. The Mountain Dance and Folk Festival is only one of many opportunities to enjoy live music in Asheville. During the summer, crowds gather for Shindig on the Green, held in the heart of downtown on Saturday nights.
Now you can sit in the audience and enjoy the show or try your hand at square dancing. But to find the real magic of this event, you need to walk right up to the different groups and hear the music as it was meant to be played. Just for fun, unamplified, and full of spirit.
Not everyone who comes to Asheville comes to make music. One man dreamed of building an inn, similar to the lodges in Yellowstone National Park.
Tennessee pharmacist E.W. Grove made his fortune selling Grove's Tasteless Chill Tonic. Now, his potion claimed to offer relief from malaria and the resulting chills and fever. And it was also advertised to make children and adults fat as pigs. With all the money he banked from selling his popular tonic, E.W. came to Asheville and built the Grove Park Inn.
The inn opened back in 1899 and was made to last. Constructed of native boulders, workers used hundreds of pulleys, wagons, and mules to move these granite stones into place. Some of those stones weighed as much as 10,000 pounds. While many turn-of-the-century inns have not survived, the solid stone Grove Park Inn is still a thriving upscale resort. After a round of golf on one of the most beautiful courses in the United States, guests can unwind with a visit to the inn's spectacular spa. The spa is a subterranean sanctuary that weaves together the elements of water, sky, fire, and rock. Opened in 2001, this 3-story, 60,000 square foot facility is a water wonderland with 20 water features including 9 pools, waterfalls, tunnels, underwater music, and an outdoor whirlpool. After relaxing in the pools all day, you can enjoy dinner with family and friends on the inn's Sunset Terrace. It's obvious to see where it gets its name. Before Grove came to town, a young man had already built his dream home on the rolling hills along the French Broad River. George Vanderbilt opened his extravagant home on Christmas Eve, 1895. Now a historic landmark, it remains privately owned by the Vanderbilt heirs. The estate welcomes more than 1 million guests each year.
Biltmore is America's largest privately owned home. Just the foundation of the 250-room French Renaissance-style chateau occupies over 4 acres. Biltmore House features 34 family and guest rooms, 43 bathrooms, 65 fireplaces, 3 kitchens, an indoor swimming pool, and a bowling alley.
Biltmore Estate even had its own dairy farm. In fact, back in the 1930s, the dairy subsidized the Biltmore House. In 1985, the barn was transformed into a winery, which today has become one of the most visited in the country. The fertile farmland that surrounds it now grows rows and rows of grapes. They produce over 75,000 cases a year. The winery has also received several awards for some of the 15 varieties of wine it produces. If you're looking to have a great bottle of wine with a 4-course meal while moving at a mere 20 miles per hour through some of the state's most pristine landscape, our next stop is for you. From its world-class dinner train to a ride on its historic steam engine through beautiful mountain valleys, the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad offers some of the best ways to absorb the Great Smoky Mountains National Forest. On board, you'll travel through hand-dug tunnels, over some of the highest trestles in the state, and also by a little movie history. The train wreck in the blockbuster movie The Fugitive was filmed here. It was the largest stage train wreck in movie history.
If you don't have time to take a journey on the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad, you definitely need to stop into Smoky Mountain Trains right next to the depot in Bryson City. They have the largest Lionel train collection in the Southeast, with over 7,000 pieces of train equipment on display, and a layout of 71 switches and almost a mile of track.
From Bryson City, you can take the train up the tracks another 22 miles to Nantahala Outdoor Center. Here you have an hour layover where you can get a bite to eat or watch whitewater sportsmen hone their skills. These roaring rapids are home to Olympic hopefuls, but you don't have to be an Olympian or even an athlete to enjoy getting out on the river. The folks at the Nantahala Outdoor Center offer whitewater rafting from family-friendly to high adventure. The Appalachian Trail runs right through the Nantahala Outdoor Center. So if you want to put on your boots, you can hike a little of the AT, as it's locally called. The Appalachian Trail, completed in 1937, is a 2,160-mile footpath that runs through 14 states along the crest of the Appalachian Mountains from Katahdin, Maine to Springer, Georgia. 371 miles of the trail run through North Carolina, including the trail's highest point, Clingman's Dome, at 6,643 feet above sea level, in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. You can also get there by car, which makes it a favorite place for many because of the panoramic views it offers. The beauty of the Nantahala Forest surrounds the small town of Franklin. The self-proclaimed gem capital of the world, Franklin has been providing riches for centuries. At the Franklin Gem and Mineral Museum, you'll find over 4,000 mineral species, including rocks that glow in the dark. This 32-foot-long display features a brilliant collection of the world's most colorful fluorescent minerals. After visiting the museum, stop off at one of the area's rock hounding spots to look for your own treasures.
The famous jewelry store Tiffany's came to this valley in the late 1800s trying to find more wealth. They left without finding the mother lode, but today tourists have taken the place of Tiffany's and they sift through buckets of dirt hoping to extract a precious stone like native star rubies and sapphires. And they have a whole lot of fun in the process. You guys found anything good yet?
Molly, what'd you find? What's in your hand?
What's that?
Oh, cool, look.
Gems aren't the only treasure you'll find in the Nantahala National Forest. Almost everyone is familiar with the poem that begins, "I think I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree." The poem's author, Alfred Joyce Kilmer, lost his life in World War I. In 1936, the Forest Service bought 13,055 acres outside Robbinsville, North Carolina, and named it the Joyce Kilmer Memorial Forest. You can find more species of trees here, 130 at last count, than in all of Europe. Some of the trees are over 100 feet tall and measure 20 feet in circumference. The only way to see them is to take a walk among the giants along the 2-mile figure-8 trail. This beautiful tract of land is a befitting remembrance to a revered American soldier and poet. With trees as old as 400 years, this is one of the last remnants of the original Appalachian forest. These original forests served the area's first inhabitants well. Some 1,000 Cherokee Indians hid out in the Great Smokies in 1838, when the Cherokee Nation was forcibly moved to Oklahoma along the tragic route known as the Trail of Tears.
His real name was Sam Houston. Come on, boys!
You can learn more about this history during the summer months at one of the world's longest-running outdoor dramas. Held in the Mountainside Theater, right outside the town of Cherokee, the drama Unto These Hills recounts the tale of this noble Indian nation from the arrival of the Spanish in 1540 to their removal west by the American government in 1838.
5,000 people, nearly 1/3 of the whole Cherokee Nation, died and were buried in nameless graves along the Trail of Tears from North Carolina to Oklahoma.
Cherokee is now a modern town, but it's still possible to see what Cherokee life was like back in the 1700s at the Oconaluftee Indian Village.
A visit to the Oconaluftee Indian Village is like stepping back 200 years in history. You can see Cherokee artisans demonstrate ancient crafts such as pottery, weaving, and canoe construction. You can also see how they hunted with deadly accuracy using blowguns.
The Cherokee people are proud survivors of a long, heroic history. Today, their descendants, 11,000 strong, make up the eastern band of the Cherokee Nation and live here on the state's largest Indian reservation as fitting custodians of the southernmost point of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. There's a timelessness of landscape and a depth of culture in our North Carolina mountains. Venture off the beaten path, wander into the valleys and coves, or hike up to the forested peaks and down one of its many rivers. Indian legends and the magic of mountain myth are just a few ridges over from the bustle of cities and towns. If you're like many, you're reluctant to leave this treasured region of our state. For many, the memories produced here will keep them and their family and friends coming back for years to come.
It's amazing when you think that just over a century ago, the outside world hardly knew of these mountains. I'm David Holt, and I hope you've enjoyed this look at our North Carolina mountains. As you've seen, there's a treasure waiting around every bend for you to explore.